Yes, my people, it is your boy VRD, and welcome to episode 3 of my route learning series. Today, we're going to be taking a 4-car class 377 Electro Star down from London Victoria to Reigate. So, this journey differs from the previous southbound journey that we did on this route because at East Croydon, we are going to be switching over from the fast lands to the slow lands, and that will take us through Redhill. At Redhill, we will be turning off of the Brighton main line and heading over to Reigate. Reigate is the following station from Redhill. So slightly different. It's a bit makes it for a bit more of an interesting journey. You get quite a lot of yellow signals along this route as well. So I'll definitely be calling out what I'm doing and talking about my driving technique when we encounter those. So we're going to be calling at Clapham Junction, East Croydon, where we switch over to the slow lines, like I said. After East Croydon, it will be Purley, Coulsdon South, Merstham, Redhill, and finally Reigate. So it's about a 50 minute journey time. Here's our 4-car train here, class 377-377402. Let's enter the cab here, check I'm recording as I always do. 1 Romeo 44. Alright, so let's just configure the rear cab correctly, setting the driver reminder appliance, and like I said, it's not necessary to do that in the back cab. It's a bit of an OCD habit of mine that I always that I've built up over the years. 2 tail lights being displayed correctly, ensure that that is the case. And then we can head up to the front of the train. Once you get to the other end, once again, just ensure your 2 tail lights are being displayed correctly. Enter the cab. Configure the doors correctly once again. Excuse me. Right, we're going to come over to our safety systems panel, and we're going to turn the automatic warning system, driver safety device, and vigilance isolation switches into the vertical normal positions. Going to sit in the driver's seat, set the driver reminder appliance, insert the master key and turn it clockwise. That was clockwise, right? Yes, it was. And we're going to move the reverser, also known as the F and R switch, into the neutral position. You can use the up and down buttons on the D-pad to do that. And then we are going to acknowledge the AWS reset button, which can be done with circle on the PS5. So, or you can obviously use X and the left stick to interact with the various buttons and switches as well, but quite a few of them have their shortcuts, so I will try to call them out, or not call them out. I'll try I'll any shortcuts that I know of, I'll let you guys know. For anyone that may be new to the game, let's get over to our headlights panel. We are going to turn the headlight switch into the day running position. We might as well open the passenger doors as well on the right hand side. Final thing we need to do actually is head over to the PIS screen. Oops, no, let's not do that. And then we need to scroll down to the bottom of the list and then scroll up from the bottom to find Reigate. Reigate is not too far up from the bottom. It's number 283. So if you imagine yourself traveling along the Brighton main line, going through the list of the various stations in the southbound direction, that's what happens when you scroll up the list from the bottom. So you got, oops, what's happened here? Oh dear me, hold on. Yeah, so you see we got, excluding Sittingbourne and Tenham, those are over in Kent. I don't know why those are there. But yeah, after that you got Victoria, Battersea Park, Clapham Junction, Norbury, and etc, etc. Let's exit this screen there, go back to the default screen. And we're just going to pop out and ensure that the headlights and destination displays are showing the correct things and everything, which they appear to be. So we've got the, sorry, I'm just trying to get the thumbnail as well. Killing two birds with one stone. Sorry, unaliving two birds with one stone. We need to be careful. Bright headlights shining from the non-driver side, not so bright LED style lights shining from the driver side. Destination display reads Reigate, and we got the Cyclops light at the top as well. So that is what we need. That is definitely what we need. And the reason why my mic might seem a bit loud is because I've got the weather synced up with real life and it is chucking it down at the moment. So, oops, what's happened here? Oh, okay, I'm not sure why it's done that. I think when the service commences and you're not sat in the driver's seat, the AI, the train seems to have a bit of a mind of its own sometimes. It's a bit of a bug with the game. Yeah, as I was saying, it's chucking it down at the moment. So once we leave London Victoria and go outside, the rain sound is going to be a bit overwhelming. So I've turned up my microphone volume to compensate for that. So if my mic does seem a bit too loud, then I apologize, but you'll thank me in in a few minutes. Right, I can see that our signal has cleared to a what appears to be a single yellow. But that does still look red. Like the single yellow and the red is hard to tell apart sometimes. It's now cleared to a green aspect, so that is all good. We can reset our driver reminder appliance. And in about 30 seconds time, I'm going to get the doors closed and we will begin on our journey towards Reigate. I'm going to be all fancy and stand on the non-driver side and close the doors from there using these buttons. 26, 27, 28, 29. Right, 30 seconds prior to the scheduled departure time, so let's get the doors closed. Final glance at the signal as well, although it is it's very hard to make out. Yep, that looks all fine to me. Got the door interlock light illuminated there. Final glance of the signal, and we're going to test out the hill start button as well. So into forward, holding in L2 to activate the hill start button, moving the power brake controller into the off position, still holding in L2. You can see we got the 1 bar reading on the brake cylinder gauge. Now going to select notch 1 of power, wait for about a second, release the hill start button. Brake cylinder gauge reading falls to 0 and train begins to move. I'm now going to up the power to notch 2. Speed limit departing Victoria is 20 miles an hour. Increasing to 40 miles an hour in about, I don't even know, quarter of a mile from here. So we got up to 20 miles an hour, just shutting off the power now. Can see the letter G in the sorry indication. What do you call it? The sorry box. I can't remember the new name for it. I'm used to calling it a theatre box. Ooh, we better get our windscreen wipers on. Yeah, letter G just tells us that we are being routed onto line G. So from the left over there, over to the right, it's lines A through I think it is. I think it's I or H, I can't remember. No, it's I. So yeah. So because of the rain and the poor railhead condition due to the wet weather and whatnot, I'm going to be driving slightly more on the cautious side. I'm going to be braking slightly earlier than I normally would be, which is common practice when driving in wet weather. So speed limit has now gone up to 40 miles an hour, and we've got a bit of a climb here out of London Victoria, just to allow us to pass over the River Thames. You can see Battersea Power Station over on the left there. Does not look like that anymore. So I've gone into notch 3 of power. You don't want to be applying too much power at too low of a speed either when driving in wet weather, because it can cause your wheels to spin. Now that we're up to 30 miles an hour, I'm just doing a running brake test, so just giving it 50% braking or brake step 2, observing the speed fall by 10 miles an hour, and then accelerating back up towards 40 miles an hour. Speed limit is now 45, by the way. Speed limit went up to 45 at the top of that climb there, just before passing over Grosvenor Bridge, which is the bridge that takes you across the River Thames. So we're now up to about 42 miles an hour. I'm going to shut off the power from here because we are soon going to be entering a rather lengthy downward gradient, downhill section of track, however you want to word it. So that just gives our speed a bit of room to roll up through gravity. That was Battersea Park Station that we just passed through as well. I'm gonna sip some of my coffee. In fact, let me wait until I get to the first station, because I don't want to start sipping my coffee and then something happens that I need to commentate on. So we just passed over the southwestern lines from Waterloo. We're gonna swerve over to the right here and join up with those in a minute. I say join up with those, more like run alongside those. Also just received an AWS warning for a double yellow signal, so I'm making an immediate brake step 2 application. Once we get down to about 30 miles an hour, we're just going to reduce that to brake step 1 until we can see the aspect of the following signal. Releasing the brakes at 20 miles an hour. Speed limit has now gone up to 60 miles an hour as well. So we've got a double yellow, so that tells us that we are clear to enter the platform at Clapham Junction. So that particular signal is 2 signal spaces out from Clapham Junction, so we'll keep that in mind. If that is displaying a single yellow, then you're being held outside of Clapham Junction. If that's displaying a double yellow or a green, then you're clear to enter Clapham Junction. And if that is displaying a red, then you need to stop at that signal. So now this signal is displaying a single yellow, and that's now jumped up to a green. So what that more or less tells us is that there was a train occupying the platform at Clapham Junction, and that train has now departed and is making its way down the line towards East Croydon. So I didn't accelerate all the way up to 60 miles an hour there. And then now that we got closer to the platform, I just gave it a brake step 1 application, which gave us about a 25 mile an hour entry speed, which is again just a more suitable driving technique given the current weather conditions and whatnot. Stop in position for a 4-car train at Clapham Junction, platform 13, I think this is just in line with the staircase here. So when you see the bottom of the staircase in this little window here, you're more or less stopped in the right place. Brake step 3, neutral, door release on the left. I'm definitely gonna sip my coffee now. In fact, that's getting downed. That is getting downed. Woo. Oh, that is lovely. Love me a bit of caffeine, man. I love it. Right. We are all good to depart. We've got a green signal. Platform starter signal is green. let's get the doors closed. Door interlock lights are illuminated. You can look at the CCTV monitors if you want, but obviously they don't function in train sim world. In reality, these would be functioning, and they show you the display of the outside of the train on the side that the doors are open, of course. So yeah, you can look at those for the immersion if you want, but because they're not working, there isn't much immersion there. Let's get a move on, enough waffling. It's a bit of a climb out of Clapham Junction in the southbound direction, but it doesn't really warrant the hill start button. It's not that steep. So notch 2 of power initially. Once we get up to 10 miles an hour, we're going to go into notch 3. And again, like I said, because of the wet weather, we're being a bit more gentle on the acceleration. If we were driving in dry conditions, then I'd be straight into full power at 5 miles an hour. But because it's raining, we have to be careful not to spin the wheels up. So now in full power, speed limit is 60 miles an hour, going up to 70 miles an hour in about a mile and a quarter from here. So we're now at 55 miles an hour. I'm going to begin cutting back on the power, just reducing it to notch 2, and we'll see how the speed behaves, and if we need to, we will adjust the power accordingly. Still a bit of a climb as well, so maintaining speed is a bit more challenging than it would be on a flat section of track. Just reducing it down to notch 1 because we seem to be getting a bit closer to 60 miles an hour. This is Wandsworth Common Station that we're passing through. And the speed limit goes up to 70 miles an hour very shortly. You're going to see the speed board for that in a second. Very hard to make out. There it is there. So just going straight into notch 4 of power now. Although you do need to wait for the full length of your train to be clear of the speed board before accelerating up to the increase in speed limit. Because we're only driving a 4-car train, and given the speed that we're traveling at, going straight into notch 4 even before passing the speed board in that particular situation was harmless. That was Balham Station that we just passed through. So up to 65 miles an hour. So once again, just reducing the power back to notch 2. Lines over to the left there take you up towards Streatham Hill, and after that onwards towards Crystal Palace. And then it splits in two. You can either head towards Beckenham Junction. Just shut off the power because we are at 70 miles an hour. Yeah, you can either head towards Beckenham Junction, or you can head down towards North Junction and then onwards to East Croydon again. So there's 2 ways to get to East Croydon, or you can also go to West Croydon as well. And in fact, you can also head over towards London Bridge. The lines in South London are very complex. It's like a massive spider web. Yeah, just bouncing between the various notches of power just to keep our speed balanced at around 68 miles an hour. This is a junction that I can never remember the name of. I want to say Streatham North Junction, but I don't think it is called Streatham North. It might be. But yeah, this is where you can head over towards either Wimbledon or Mitcham Junction, and then down to Sutton, and then onwards towards Dorking and whatnot. Streatham Common Station that we just passed through. We're now going to be entering a bit of a climb, so just anticipating that from now, getting ready to increase the power. We're in notch 1 of power at the moment. We seem to be maintaining speed pretty well. I'm going to up it to notch 2, however. This is Norbury Station that we're coming up on. The climb summits out at Norbury Station, so I am shutting off the power now. And you got a momentary downward gradient passing through Norbury Station, so just keep that in mind as well. And then it becomes another shallow upward gradient. Now if you remember my other southbound video, I did advise shutting off the power after passing through Norbury Station, because that way gravity is going to bring your speeds down for the upcoming speed limits on the approach to East Croydon Station. However, on this occasion, because we are being routed onto the slow lines on the approach to East Croydon Station, we're going to need to obey a different set of speed limits. So there isn't really much point in shutting off the power at Norbury Station, because we're going to need to make a brake application very shortly anyway. Now the signalling for this move onto the slow lines in Trainsim World isn't really accurate, so you've got to be very cautious. So we've got a double yellow signal here passing through Thornton Heath, so making a brake step 2 application now. Just reducing that to brake step 1. So on the other side of the following station, which is Solhurst Station, we want to be doing 30 miles an hour. We've got a single yellow signal here, so that tells us that the signal, or tells us that we can expect the signal at the end of the platform at Solhurst Station to be displaying a red aspect. So we're now doing 30 miles an hour. I've released the brakes momentarily. Speed limit's gone down to 60 miles an hour, but that has no effect on us whatsoever, because we want to be doing well below 60 at this point. And I can now see the red signal at the end of the platform at Solhurst. Always aim to be doing below 20 miles an hour when you pass over the AWS magnet. So we've now got double yellow signal, jumped up to a green signal with position 2 junction indication. So we're now gonna begin accelerating up to 30 miles an hour, because like I said, the speed limit for the move over to the slow lines is 30 miles an hour. You can see the little board for that there. So yeah, the signaling is not too accurate, but that was actually more accurate than it normally is. If I try to explain it, I think it's gonna overcomplicate things a bit too much, but that train crossing over in front of us did actually cause the signals to behave in a more realistic way, which is a bit ironic. But it's called approach controlled signaling. It's a very complicated thing. It's not something I'm going to jump into now, but yeah. So once you're clear of the crossover onto the slow lines, then the speed limit does increase up to 40 miles an hour, so keep that in mind. Obviously feel free to refer to the speed limit display at the top of the screen, because I don't think I'm always going to be on top of the speed limit changes with my commentary, which is a bit problematic, something I need to work on. So just rewind the video back and refer to that if you need to. And again, just being very gentle on the acceleration there, keeping in mind that we did actually pass a double yellow signal, so we can expect a red signal just outside of East Croydon Station. So I'm going to make a brake step 1 application. So this signal here is 1 signal spacing away from East Croydon Station. and that is displaying a double yellow with position 1 junction indication, so we are actually cleared into the platform at East Croydon. If that was displaying a single yellow, then we'd be held outside of East Croydon station. So you can see I just slowed right down, because you're only going by, you have to go by the previous signal that you passed. You have to go past, sorry, I'm butchering the commentary. You have to the previous signal that you passed, whatever aspect that was displaying, you have to go by that until you can see otherwise. So there'll be times where you'll see me slowing down in anticipation to come up on a single yellow signal or a red, and by the time I actually get to the following signal, the aspect would have changed from what I was expecting it to be displaying. So yeah, there's a bit of an art to it. Stop in position for a 4-car train at East Croydon Station, platform 6. A bit of a challenge here, but you want to be stopped in line with that little outcrop of brick wall that we had down there on the left. Just look to the right when you get to that, and then you'll see the stop board come into view there. Brake step 3, neutral, door release on the right. East Croydon Station, my people, East Croydon Station. Right, we're gonna get the doors closed. We've got a double yellow signal coming out of East Croydon Station, so that's been double yellow for a while. Chances are there's a train currently stopped at the next station, which is South Croydon. We're not scheduled to stop there, but we'll see what happens anyway. And once again, just being nice and gentle on the acceleration, not doing too much. Speed limit is now 45 as well, by the way, so speed limit goes up from 40 to 45 just as you enter the platform at East Croydon Station, so worth noting that as well. But I think it might be a little bit before. I think it is a little bit before, in fact. Still committing that double yellow signal that we had to memory, but we now have a green signal as the AWS warning. Well, we're going to call that a warning, as the AWS chime tells us. Speed limit has now gone up to 50 miles an hour as well. Goes up to 50 miles an hour, not too far out from East Croydon Station. However, we're soon going to need to slow down for an upcoming 20 mile an hour speed limit, so I'm in fact getting the brakes in for that now. Bit of a trick here: if you aim to be entering the platform at South Croydon Station here at 35 miles an hour, even though we're not scheduled to stop here, if you aim to be doing 35 mile an hour on entry into the platform here, from that point, brake step 1 will have you slowed down for the upcoming 20 limit on a very nice braking curve. We're going a bit too slowly there, but I was playing it nice and safe. Got the signal there with a position 4 junction indication telling us that we are being routed over to the right there. So you can see the 20 board there with the arrow pointing to the right, telling us that we need to be doing 20 mile an hour for this move. Lines over there take you down towards East Grinstead and Uckfield. So you can see we just passed a 60 board there, so once the rear end of our train is clear of that, we can accelerate up towards 60 miles an hour. So just giving it notch 3 of power. and up to full power at 30 miles an hour. You can see me looking down when I change the power setting. That's just to ensure that we're not getting into any wheel spin I should say. Wheel spin and wheel slip are two different things. Yeah, this yellow light will, or this amber light actually will illuminate if I'm getting into wheel slip, and then that tells me that I need to adjust the power setting, reduce power to put an end to that. So up to 55 miles an hour, now reducing the power. Again, it's a bit of a climb after leaving East Croydon station, so maintaining speed is requires a bit more power than you normally would need. This is Purley Oak station that we're passing through. Not scheduled to stop here either, but the next station is Purley, so we're gonna be prepared to make a brake application. Up to 60 miles an hour, so I'm now just gonna shut off the power completely and run on momentum for a bit. A fairly solid braking point for Purley station is at the next signal here. So this signal, first signal that you come across after Purley Oaks. Giving it a brake step 2 application. Reducing that down to brake step 1 from now. If you're in brake step 2 for too long, you're going to slow down slightly too quickly. And again, if you're driving in dry conditions, you could leave the braking slightly later than I did there, but because of the wet weather, I'm just being nice and cautious with the braking. So you can see I've released the brakes there momentarily because we were slowing down a bit too quickly. Now on entry into the platform, jumping back into brake step 1. Stopping position for a 4-car train at Purley station is, I'd say, at the end of the canopy there. So just put the final pillar of the canopy in your porthole window and you should be fine. Just like so, perfect. Brake step 3, neutral, door release on the left. Right, we have a green signal, so I'm going to get the doors closed. We seem to be keeping to time as well, despite my very cautious driving, so I'm pleased about that. Next station is Coulsdon South. Speed limit goes up from 60 to 80 miles an hour just after departing from Purley station as well, so keep that in mind. You can see the 80 board there. It's also worth mentioning that we are now coming up on Stoltz Junction, which is the final point where you'd be able to cross over from the fast lines to the slow lines, or vice versa. You've also obviously got Selhurst where we crossed over. You can cross over before and after East Croydon as well, and at Purley I believe you're able to cross over as well. But Stoltz Junction, which we are about to pass, is the absolute final place where you can make a crossover between the two lines. So if I was on the fast lanes and I needed to stop at Redhill station, if I didn't see the junction indication for the signal over there, then I'd need to come to a stand and bad up the signaler. Alright, so this is the point where I like to get my brakes on for Coulsdon South station. So more or less as we pass over Stoatsness Junction, just the final bit of Stoatsness Junction, on the approach to that footbridge that we just passed beneath. But I didn't want to... What braking position am I in? Oh, I slowed down a bit too quickly there. Yeah, just on the approach to the footbridge there is a decent place to get the brakes on. Once again, I'm being a bit overly cautious with the braking, and I apologise for that. The reason why I didn't want to say to use the footbridge as a reference point, speed limit goes down to 75 by the way, but that don't affect us because we're slowing down for Coulsdon South anyway. But yeah, I didn't want to say use the footbridge as reference because if you're driving during the night or in heavy fog, you're not going to be able to see the footbridge too well, so you risk overshooting the station. But by using Stoatsness Junction as a form of reference is a safer thing to do, especially the trailing point that you pass over there. You're definitely not going to miss that. So the first PIS board just after you pass beneath the footbridge at Coulsdon South station is a decent place to be stopped at for a 4-car train. That was a terrible stop. Well, I mean, we're still keeping to time though, but that approach was atrocious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, try not to hang about in brake step 2 for too long. Definitely get the reduction in braking force in there nice and early. I'll show you guys how it's really done on the approach to the following station, which is Merstham. Right, let's get out of here. So remember, speed limit is 75 now. So if you were driving a non-stop train, you would definitely need to keep that in mind. Although it's only a 5 mile an hour difference, so you just need to tap on the brakes, to be honest. Or if you're really skilled, you'd be able to coast it out from a certain point. But I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue where that would be. Speed limit increases to 90 miles an hour in about 3/4 of a mile as well. You've got a tiny board down at track level once again telling you when that is, so I will call that out when we come up on that. Do hope everyone's doing okay though. Let me know how you're finding the content. I know there's room for improvement, of course, and you know, I'm open to constructive criticism all the time because I want this channel is for you guys, the viewers, you know. So please let me know if there's something I'm doing you don't like, and if there's something I'm doing you do like. Let me know either way, please, and thank you. Just acknowledging the vigilance alert there, which is also done by pressing circle on the controller. Speed limit goes up to 90 at this point, by the way. Again, very hard to make out the speed board, but yeah. Vigilance alert occurs when no controller input is detected for 60 seconds, I believe it is, and then you've got 7 seconds to react to that. If you don't acknowledge the vigilance alert after 7 seconds, you get an emergency brake application. So we're now coming up on Merstham Tunnel. If we were on the fast lanes at this point, we would be passing through Quarry Tunnel, and in a similar manner to what it does when passing through Quarry Tunnel, the gradient does actually sum it out. So we've been on a steady climb since exiting East Croydon station, and that climb gets steeper up until the approach to Merstham Tunnel. after you pass through Merstham Tunnel, it summits out, and then it becomes a fairly significant downward gradient for the rest of the way into Gatwick Airport, I believe it is. But we're not going down to Gatwick Airport on this occasion. We're going only as far as Redhill before we turn off the Brighton main line. So yeah, just keep that in mind. We're now travelling downhill. Make a brake step 2 application just before exiting this tunnel here for the next station, which is Merstham. And I know I was on about not being in brake step 2 for too long, but on this occasion, because we're traveling downhill, you want to hang about in brake step 2 for a bit longer than usual. So I've reduced it to brake step 1 at about 60 miles an hour. Speed limit has gone down from 90 to 80 miles an hour as well, by the way, so just keep that in mind. But in a similar way to the approach to Coulsdon South, it doesn't really affect us because we're slowing down for the station. Just increased it up to brake step 2 again momentarily there, just to have us below 30 for the entry into the platform. Forecast stop position is about 2 carriage lengths away from the end of the platform. So just bouncing between brake steps 1 and 2. You can see it coming up now. Releasing the brakes momentarily. Back into brake step 1. Releasing. Brake step 1. 3 to 8. And oof. Just about managed to stop in time. There's no consequence for obviously stopping beyond it, obviously. Or it depends, but if you're stopping a few meters beyond it, then it's not a big deal. But that's just my OCD coming into play there. Flashing double yellow signal tells us that in 2 signal spacings time we can expect a diverging route. So sometimes you get these flashing signals in advance of the diverging route or the turnout. Simpler way to word it. Most likely because of there's such a huge decrease in the speed limit. So it's just giving you a bit of prior warning. Or sometimes you get the approach controlled signaling like I was talking about, which we should have had on the approach to Solhurst. Well, we technically did have it because the way the signals were behaving when we were passing through Solhurst, that is literally how approach controlled signaling works. You get brought down to the red aspect, and then as you get closer to the red aspect, it changes. Only thing it should have done was it should have only changed to a single yellow aspect. The junction signal doesn't clear to a green when you're under approach controlled signaling. But other than that was that train passing over conveniently, crossing our path at that specific point allowed me to kind of demonstrate how approach controlled signaling functions, which I don't know, I have mixed emotions about that, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting it to be to be there, so it kind of botched up the commentary a bit, but it's not the end of the world. Right, next station is Redhill, speed limit 80 miles an hour, going down to 70 and then 30 miles an hour for the turnout onto the platform at Redhill. The reduction down to 70 miles an hour doesn't affect us because again we're already going to be slowing down for the station by the time we get to that. So we passed a flashing double yellow. We can now expect a flashing single yellow, and after that we can expect I think it's a solid single yellow with junction indication 1 or position 1 junction indication, which is the 5 white lights pointing diagonally upwards to the left. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, There's our flashing single yellow there, so I'm now shutting off the power. Even though we're nowhere near the speed limit, we do need to begin making a brake application very shortly. So we're at 60 miles an hour at the moment. We need to be doing 30 miles an hour at the turnout. So at this facing point here, I'm going to begin my brake application. Slightly on the early side, again, just giving it brake step 2 initially, reducing that down to brake step 1. Speed limit is now 70 miles an hour. There's our solid single yellow with position 1 junction indication. So we can anticipate the following signal to be displaying a red aspect, and that signal is at the other end of the platform at Redhill. So we are cleared into the platform at Redhill station. We're now coming up on the turnout. So we're down to 30 miles an hour now. You can see the 30 board with the arrow pointing to the left. And here we are turning off onto the section of track associated with the platform here at Redhill station. Still anticipating the red signal at the end of the platform, which I almost forgot about. You can see the signal is displaying a red aspect. Most of the time, by the time you get to this signal, it would have cleared up to a yellow or green aspect, but it's decided to stay red this time, which it has the right to. It's entitled to do that, of course. Nothing wrong with that. Right, there we are, stopped accurately. Got the 2 to 10 car stop board in the window. Brake step 3 neutral. Signal is now cleared up to a green aspect after we've come to a stand, which I was expecting it to do. So we're not going to set our driver reminder appliance. Door release on the left. Right, so we are within 30 seconds of our scheduled departure time. Gonna get these doors closed. Interlock lights are illuminated. Forward. And away we go. Next and final station is Reigate. Speed limit drops to 15 miles an hour at the end of the platform here. I'm only going to accelerate up to 10 miles an hour because of the somewhat steep downward gradient that we are traveling on. You'd have also noticed that we had the letter R in the sorry box there, associated with the platform starter signal. That tells us that we are being routed towards Reigate. If we had the letter M, I think that would tell us that we are being routed towards Gatwick. I think it's the letter M. It might be something else, I'm not too sure. But I'm going to cover that section of track in episode 5. So you can see I've shut off the power at 10 miles an hour and the speed is beginning to roll up towards 15 just through gravity. Although if you were paying attention, you would have seen the 30 boards that we just passed. So that tells us that once the rear of our train is cleared, that we can accelerate up to 30 miles an hour, which it has now done. Only using notch 2 of power. 30 and 15 aren't too far apart. Up to 25, reducing that down to notch 1. Speed limit is about to go up to 70 miles an hour. So we just passed the 70 board there. Speed limit is now 70, so into full power. Reigate is in 1.3 miles time, and we've now got a climb on this final stretch into Reigate station. double yellow signal. This particular signal being double yellow tells us that we are cleared up to the end of the platform at Reigate station. So because we're traveling below the speed limit, there's no need to make a brake application yet. But I do want to have my brakes on before passing the next signal, which is the single yellow. If you wait until the single yellow signal before putting your brakes on, you're gonna have a hard time slowing down for Reigate station. So I think just as you enter this right hand bend here, begin your brake application. So brake step 2, reducing that down to brake step 1. There's our single yellow signal. And I'm aiming for a slower than normal entry speed into the platform here at Reigate, because we do have a red signal on the other side of the platform. So down to 20 miles an hour. I'm just releasing the brakes now. Again, I was a bit too overly cautious with the brakes, but because of the wet weather and poor visibility as well, just playing it nice and safe. So there's the AWS magnet associated with the platform starter signal. A bit of a way out of the platform, to be honest. Normally the AWS magnet's a bit closer to the signal, but it could be because the platform's a bit shorter than normal. But yeah, just aim to be doing 20 miles an hour when passing over that, even though the speed limit is still 70 miles an hour. And then I'm going to come to a stand just as the signal is about to disappear from view. There we go. I'm not really going by the yard counter that we have at the top of the screen there. I prefer to just go by what seems more logical. So yeah, or if we have stop boards on the platform, I'll definitely go by the stop boards. But when we don't have stop boards, I just stop in the most logical place as opposed to what the yard counter says. But yeah, brake step 3, neutral, driver reminder appliance set. We'll open the doors before the passengers panic. Let's turn off the windscreen wipers. Reverser to the off position. Master key removed. Safety systems, automatic warning system isolated, driver safety device isolated, vigilance isolated, headlight switch off, tail light switch can stay in the auto position. Let's just pop outside here, have a look. Yep, 2 tail lights being displayed. Oops. 2 tail lights being displayed, which is accurate, and destination display can stay as Reigate, because the driver on the returning journey will obviously change it to Victoria, where this train will be heading back to, and I'm going to cover that journey in the following video. But yeah, that concludes this route learning video. I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to watch it. Constructive feedback and criticism is more than welcome in the comment section below, like I said. And if you'd like to further support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. I will catch you guys in the next one. Love.